Okay, hi everyone. Stu here, flying solo tonight from the top order side. So I'm not sure I can pull off one of Binksy's snappy intros, and I'm not sure about the music. We might get Raj to edit that in post. But here to help me with the show, I'm joined by a guest who I'm sure will be well known to many in the New Zealand cricket community. Long-time listeners might recognise the name Marc Ellison, as we've mentioned him a few times on the podcast already. Former New Zealand under-19 captain. We mentioned him during our chat with Finn Allen, had a bit to do with Finn's development as a youngster. Mark's now living in Ireland, where he's played first-class cricket for the Northern Knights, the Irish Northern Knights, and is still flashing the willow in club cricket. Just told me he had a finals day at the weekend, so he's the perfect person to help me chat through this Black Caps v Ireland series so far. So, yeah, Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Stu. Thanks for having me.
Good, mate. So, look, I want to bounce around a few different things from this Ireland-New Zealand series, but before we start, why don't you fill the listeners in, who I'm sure many of them will kind of recognise your name. You've sort of been in a lot of different cities and provinces around New Zealand. But so, yeah, what are you up to these days in terms of your cricket stuff?
So I've been over here in Ireland for 5 years now, so based in Northern Ireland. So came over August 2017, probably came at the right time in terms of the first class structure here had just begun, I think, that year in 2017. They'd been playing a lot into provincial games before then, but obviously with test status achieved in 2017, we then had the opportunity to play first class cricket, and then the 50 over limit overs stuff became effectively list day status, and as did the T20. So I came over at the end of that season and just got involved back with my old club. And then in that winter, got involved with the provincial team here, the Northern Knights. And thankfully, the following year, 2018, made my debut in first class and list day. I had 3 seasons there, playing club cricket for civil service, North of Ireland. And then come sort of pandemic time, obviously there was less cricket. I had pretty much a season off last season, and then I got on really well with the Northern Knights coach Simon Johnston. So been talking to him last winter, and the opportunity came about to join the coaching structure for the Knights. Been batting coach for the last what would it be, sort of 7-8 months. Really enjoyable, group of guys to work with. Some good young talent. We've got 1 or 2 guys in the Irish setup, and probably have underperformed a little bit along the last few years. So just trying to work with guys to help them find their potential, which is obviously what everyone's striving to do.
Nice, and look, we'll get stuck into this ODI series soon, but I can see listeners who can't see the video, Mark's sitting there in his Black Caps singlet. So Black Caps fan first and foremost. I sort of want to know where. Maybe you can help me out a little bit on the podcast. Raj has missed the last couple of episodes where we sort of dived into the Black Caps England stuff. I know you went to a few of the days, and kind of I've talked a little bit myself about how that series sort of felt particularly painful. I think partly because England was so terrible for that series, but then also like New Zealand like the year ago we were lifting the World Test Championship mace. It now sort of feels like we've come right back to the pack. So I'd be interested to know if, is there anything in that series that kind of that can help me have some hope, I suppose, that this test side, maybe the results weren't as bad as they appeared in hindsight, or, anything that kind of gives you hope that we can get back to the top again with this group of players, or is it almost a situation where it's some of these players are getting to the end of their test longevity?
Yeah, look, I think you're right. There was a sense of pain in how we were, in the end, so comfortably beaten in that series. I think from what I understand, I guess it just goes to show that, there are very small margins in the game, and if you're not quite at the standard required, the top teams can, knock you off the pedestal fairly quickly. So, look, I just feel you're probably right. Like a few little things haven't gone our way, whether it be, the likes of the injuries, the depth in the squad has been tested. And while a number of those debutants have come in and done well, it's a combination. We obviously haven't had the runs in the top four like we did, previously during the last World Test Championship cycle, which has, obviously been spoken about a lot, and it goes to show how important they are. But then, I guess I haven't looked at any numbers, but I guess our bowling attack hasn't been as effective. Maybe some, questions around selections that could have been differently there. Obviously, utilising Ajaz potentially a bit more in that last series. Look, I think guys are just, slightly off. They're not necessarily at their best. And for me, it did make me wonder, I wonder whether in the last cycle we just had that, rub of the green at times. I think what I noticed in the last series, certainly from a top order batting perspective, we were playing at balls we didn't necessarily have to play at. And I just wonder the impact of white ball cricket has had on that. And then from a bowling perspective as well, obviously we've, guys coming off the IPL, etc. I do wonder the impact that had on, lack of bowling loads coming into that series. We obviously in the end had to bowl a lot of overs. Confidence was knocked when, our best bowlers were going out 4, 5, 6 and over, especially in that sort of fourth innings. So I just think there's always just such small margins in the game, and flatter wickets here in England, which might not necessarily have been totally predicted. I mean, I think the fact that the ball didn't necessarily really turn. I mean, obviously Leach got 10 in that last test, but you didn't see the wicket deteriorate as I probably would have expected if it was going to be a dry summer, which we, in England, I think it has been. So that's probably been a little bit of a surprise, and obviously we didn't quite get selection right. And we're asking our seamers to do a hell of a job against guys who are, clearly in arguably, career best form. So just slightly off it, mate. And I don't know. I think obviously our depth is going to be tested. I've loved our pick and stick selection policy over the years, where you make guys really work for that opportunity to come in, and by the time they've really worked hard domestically for that opportunity, they've scored runs in various conditions. Hopefully they've been on 1, 2, 3 A tours, so they've scored runs overseas, taken wickets overseas, and that just means that by the time they come into the New Zealand team, they are as ready as you could potentially be. So I do hope that continues. It's obviously a bit different with the white ball, where we have more and more series, so you've got a chance to bring guys in. Hopefully the series against Ireland is an opportunity to give those guys, in the next tier, especially bowling wise, an opportunity to just get used to international cricket. Ireland are obviously an improving team, especially in white ball cricket. So a good opportunity for those guys to get some experience.
Yeah, I think that's the most frustrating thing for me, that you just mentioned, that we play so much more white ball cricket. We just don't play that Test cricket, and I think I've mentioned it on a previous show that we're going to have to wait till November or December to kind of get the Test guys to have another crack and kind of redeem themselves. So yeah, it's really tough for that part of the game. But look, let's move to kind of happier times for Black Caps fans in terms of this Ireland series. And full disclosure for the listeners, we were planning to have this chat last week, and one of the notes that I made was, I wonder if Michael Bracewell versus Michael Rippon will become an interesting battle in the lead up to the T20 and ODI World Cups. But feels like that question is well and truly redundant now, and probably is the first place we should start in terms of Bracewell's performance.
Yeah, look, he was obviously exceptional with the bat. I think he's batting in a good position for those first, or certainly the first ODI, maybe even the second one, where the ball certainly did do a bit early on. So, he was in that fortunate position of coming in when the ball's slightly older, and the wicket's obviously flattening out. And, didn't he, make the most of that? I think, obviously Ireland were in a position where you just would have backed them to win, and maybe it's a case of them just not quite knowing how to get across the line. But that was some performance. He obviously just rode the momentum of his innings. There were some tactical faults, I think, that have been widely criticised here, based on how Ireland managed those last couple of overs. But obviously they bowled into his arc, and he was able to execute, which under pressure can obviously be quite challenging. And he just seems to be going from strength to strength. Obviously his confidence is high. He's in a rich vein of form, having brought the form from the domestic season in New Zealand. I think the beauty of it is, of this selection in general, I think, is that, I remember playing club cricket against him as a 16-year-old in Dunedin, and he was, whacking it everywhere, against men and, against first-class men in club cricket, which you just didn't really see from, kids that age. He was raw, but, he's always had that power, game. So he's probably taken a bit longer than most would have hoped to find his feet at, domestic first-class list A level. But as I said, the timing of the selection's perfect. He just seems to really love the contest. And, I looked at his body language when he was going for 6, 7 and over in that test series, and I just thought, I can't recall a spinner we've had, who's had strong body language while being whacked around at 6, 7 and over like that before. He just wants to be involved in the contest. He's aware that every ball is a new contest despite what's happened the previous ball. And I think obviously that stands him in good stead. He's going to be bowling on some pretty flat wickets for a while until maybe, he gets to the subcontinent if he obviously makes the squad. So he puts a lot of revolutions on the ball, as I'm sure you probably appreciate their lips. So he's a great guy to have. And you're probably right, if you had Rippon in that squad as well, it just gives you a great, different sort of variety to choose from. Maybe you play them both some games, maybe you choose one or the other. So exciting times in that regard for sure.
Yeah, I think it is I think it's still interesting, going to be a little bit interesting to see how Michael Rippon, if he can force his way in. I think it's going to be pretty tough for him now, especially with Phillips kind of bowling a few overs and Bracewell. Like even like you say, Bracewell's, he gets a lot of revs on the ball. I've talked a little bit about, I really like how he looks developing. For me, spinners are all about spinning the ball, and he looks like someone who can certainly do that. I was actually pretty pleased to see Santner spinning that ball in that Ireland series as well. But I think it's when you look at the likes of Bracewell, Rippon, if Phillips is going to be bowling a little bit as well, Santner and Sodhi, there's a lot of options there, and I think it's going to be hard to kind of keep them all in there. But unbelievable series for him. It's 190 runs without being dismissed. Did only get 2 wickets from those 25 overs, but economy rate of 4.76, which I think was the best of the bowlers, and really good in a high scoring series. That innings that he scored, I mean, it's sort of hard. I mean, people are going to say it's just Ireland, but that innings that he played with New Zealand, 120 for 5, chasing that big total. They needed 77 off the last 6 overs, 8 wickets down. I mean, you can't think of many situations. I mean, Craig McMillan on the commentary was pretty much just saying, okay, Ireland kind of wrapping it up. And just to go and do that, it was an unbelievable effort. So I think that almost pencils him in, I would say, in both the T20. Well, maybe not in the T20 squad, but certainly in the ODI squad for that World Cup. I mean, obviously there's still a wee way to go before that, but I think very impressive stuff. You mentioned before about selection or tactical decisions that were criticised a little bit in Ireland. Where is cricket on the news cycle in Ireland? Does it get much coverage? Is this something that was actually debated in the mainstream media, or is it just in the club cricket circles?
No, I would say there's not a lot of coverage in the mainstream media. Here in the north, there'll be a bit of publicity this week, given we've got 3 matches up here. The T20 series is up here at Stormont, which is the grounds of Parliament here. So the sports cap would always sort of include those results. But no, in terms of mainstream media, there's no sort of face of cricket in mainstream media here. Kyle McKellen he's from Northern Ireland here. He does a lot of commentary, who was involved in the series, in the ODI series, will probably be commenting today as well. So, it's more that there is, there's a real community, certainly on Twitter. There's a huge community of cricket fans here. Those who love the game here do really love the game. But no, we don't get that general coverage. But no, I mean, the media outlets that do cover it here, like newspapers, and a lot of just generally online publications, we're disappointed, obviously, with the tactics. The community here in Northern Ireland, who I've spoken to as well, we're obviously disappointed with the tactics, just in terms of, the last few overs. Well, Marc Ellison bowled, I think, the second last over, and he went for 4, and then the final over, just felt probably bowled into Michael Bracewell's arc there, which is probably a fair comment. However, the boundaries are a reasonable size, and you'd probably back him to miss-hit one. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. He was hitting them clean. So yeah, I mean, hopefully the guys have learned from that. The nature of cricket here is that, we don't have the facilities to really, I believe anyway, compete consistently on the international stage. So we need to be smarter in other areas of the game, and tactically we have that. There's some astute players and members of the coaching staff who really understand white ball cricket really well, and so that's where they do need to be smarter, and I think we are getting better in that regard. So that those mistakes would have been noted, and hopefully they've been learned ahead of the T20I series this week. Now, Ireland probably at this stage might be a better 50-over team than the 2020 team, but at the same time, short of the game, in theory, it obviously brings the teams closer together. Ireland don't probably have that real power middle order. They've certainly got some guys who are improving in that area. The likes of George Dockrell has been a guy that's turned himself from a left-arm spinner into a pretty much a batsman these days who barely bowls. And the results he's produced in the last probably 12 months have been really impressive given what he's gone through. But obviously they're very reliant on Paul Stirling at the top of the innings. If he goes off, he's got to be up there as one of the better T20 limited overs players in the world on his day. So very reliant on him. Obviously Harry Tector's coming through, and he's probably not naturally, he's probably technically more inclined to be a better longer form player, but he has a really strong work ethic, and his white ball game is improving as people would have seen. I think he's had 23 ODI innings and he's made 9 scores of 50 plus. He was averaging 47. So that's really exciting as well. And you've got the captain, Andrew Balbirnie, who's had a lot of success at 50 overs, particularly against Afghanistan, actually, who've obviously got 2 of the better spinners in the world. So we've got guys there, the good ingredients and a good spine of a team who can be successful. So yeah, hopefully this is just as competitive, if not more competitive, a series.
Yeah, look, I do want to talk a little bit more about Harry Tector, because that was an unbelievable series from him. But let's sort of stay on the setup stuff at the moment, because you talked about playing first class cricket and stuff over there, but I saw a report recently saying there's going to be no first class cricket in Ireland anymore. Is that a permanent decision, or is that just a COVID related couple of years? And sort of, if there is no first class cricket, how's that going to impact kind of the development of Test cricket really over there?
Yeah, so financial constraints are the main reason there. So we last played first class cricket in 2019. Obviously, when COVID hit, it was easier not to, but also financially, the impact of not playing as much international cricket was obviously going to, hit us hard when it comes to staging those first class games. Now, we were only playing 3-day first class fixtures, but still, there's an incredible expense, obviously, staging those. Match payments for players and officials, and then accommodation costs, mileage, costs for travel, etc. Staging a 3-day game apparently is a huge cost. So it was easy, for them to do at the time, to just say, look, it's too difficult at this point in time, and we haven't played one since 2019. Right. So I have heard we may be playing some Test cricket over the winter, and we're not going to be playing any first class cricket in between times. So they're probably going to have to be a bit creative as to how they prepare their players for that. They have in the past held sort of internal North versus South kind of trial matches to try and lead into those matches. They send certain players over to England to play against county second 11s. They have like an Irish academy team, an Irish Wolves team who head over and play those. So they are trying to keep guys, get guys some fairly recent red ball form. But I mean, to this, at this stage this season, we've only had one 4-day match over in England for those players, and they're not the top tier players. They're the guys on the fringes and below, who are developing still. So, yeah, the top players are getting very little, if none, red ball cricket. So yeah, obviously such a different game. The ball behaves differently. Obviously there are different requirements around skill set that you need to be able to perform with the longer forms. So it's going to be a challenge, that's for sure. And I think it just goes to show that, despite being a test playing nation, there's some real challenges that we face over here. And any success that we have on the international stage is a minor miracle, I think it's fair to say, given the resources we have. So no, I mean, that the guys are good. I mean, they realise it's not perfect world in regards to that, but they just get on with it, and they've just obviously got to do the best when they cross the white line.
Yeah, it's Ireland's always a side I've had a bit of a soft spot for in the last sort of 25 years. I had a bit to do with Paul Mooney at Rippon down in Christchurch, so kind of hearing a few stories about the World Cup when when they beat Pakistan and all of that, and sort of had the soft spot for them since then. But yeah, geez, it, like you say, it's if you can't even fund a 4-day game, and it's sort of staggering, really, that they can perform so well against New Zealand. Just about tipped over India in the T20 series. The women, who I'm sure get even less resources, they just beat South Africa, I think, in the T20. Shout out to Arlene Kelly from Auckland, who's over there playing a bit of a role for Ireland. But yeah, remarkable stuff to be doing that. Is like, does that mean that kind of it all hinges on really the World Cups, the T20 World Cups and the ODI World Cups, in terms of getting the funding first and foremost? I'm sure actually qualifying for those, but then is everything in coaching circles and selection circles kind of leading into trying to qualify and then performing in those tournaments?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's no doubt. That's where a lot of funding does come from, for sure. Participation. I think the challenge for us is, facilities is a big one. We don't have, the international body at this stage doesn't have their own grass net structure to train on. It's been a work in progress, but I think it's still a work in progress for some time. So, we're really at the mercy of a lot of clubs who are able to provide, extra strips for the international team to train on. And, realistically, they're not always at that, top international standard to be able to really, prepare thoroughly for matches. Of course, there are times when they are, but across the board, it's a huge ask, for local groundsmen to be preparing those, those wickets consistently. Obviously, the climate doesn't help us here either. So yes, it's a challenge for sure. And I think the nature of T20 cricket in particular globally is that you're seeing a lot of countries who wouldn't necessarily be the traditional, nations, the likes of Oman, the likes of Scotland and Netherlands, potentially changing selection policy and getting, different type of players in, and being far more competitive. I mean, Oman are a tough team to beat, and you just would not think, in any, stretch of your imagination that they should be competitive. But I mean, Ireland have shown that they're, able to compete with the likes of India, the likes of New Zealand. Yet, we still struggle to beat the likes of Oman, the Netherlands at times, in those, World T20 qualifying tournaments. So it's very competitive. Obviously, Namibia obviously did well at the last World T20 as well. So, it's getting harder and harder. It's getting more competitive, which is obviously great for the game. But yeah, it does mean that there's a real reliance on the top players here in Ireland to be at their best in those tournaments if they are to progress. And, the nature of T20, it can be fickle, so it can go either way at times.
Yeah, look, let's get on to Harry Tector then, because, I think absolutely the star of the series, certainly from an Irish point of view, maybe even from the whole series. I mean, we touched on Bracewell and his performance, but Tector 200s there. I mean, was this sort of an expected thing? Is he kind of been touted as next big thing in Irish cricket, or is this, how high, I guess, are the expectations around his future? Obviously, someone I haven't seen a huge amount, and you see someone score 200s in 3 games and looked all class, I thought. And, it's very easy to overreact, but, I'd be keen to hear what the wider overview is of his game.
Look, he's probably not somebody who people have earmarked as the next great player. I certainly do think in terms of a leader, yes, 100%. He's going to captain Ireland, probably sooner rather than later, and probably in all three forms. He comes from a well-known family of cricketers. His older brother Jack has played certainly for the Irish Wolves, and he's been in and around the Irish squad for a few years. He's a few years older than Harry now, so he's sort of battling the juggling act of working full time as well as still trying to play some domestic cricket here. His younger brother Tim, who came through the Irish under-19s setup, I think last season. Last year he was captain of the Irish under-19s. He's played a bit of domestic cricket here now. So three brothers that play for the YMCA club down in Dublin, who are one of the top teams in the country. He's just gone from strength to strength, really. I mean, I made my debut in the same year as he did, and he was an Irish under-19 player at that time, and his body language, his level of maturity for his age, just blew me away instantly. Tactically, he's very astute. He's always looking to learn. He's an incredibly hard worker. And he just has that perfect combination of, an ability to think about the game in depth without, I think, overanalyzing. He is incredibly intelligent as well, and skill set, work ethic. Yeah, I think he's got all the ingredients to be a really good player. He's obviously getting more and more publicity now that he's strung some real consistent scores together. I think Pangia gave him a bat, and they had a chat after that T20 series where he played very well in the first T20. So whether that means he gets further opportunities to get in the likes of the IPL, I don't know. Obviously, it's incredibly competitive.
Paul Sterling.
I mean, as an all-round player, I've mentioned his leadership, his tactical nous. yeah, that's fair. Harry's a genuine all-rounder. He's incredible at point in the field. He's quite tall, lanky, but moves incredibly well. And, his reach, he often dives, really well to his right, obviously his left as well, and saves a lot of runs in that point region, and then bowls some useful white ball off spin as well. So a genuine all-rounder. And, I think it's fair to say, there is a lot of excitement about where he can get to in his game. Hopefully he continues to get the level and the consistency of cricket at an international standard that keeps allowing him to grow and improve. Because there is a bit of excitement around. I mean, Paul Sterling's still got a few years left. Andrew Balbirnie's, not old by any stretch of the imagination. The squad should be together for hopefully the next sort of 4 to 5 years. Got Josh Little, who was actually an IPL squad member in the most recent IPL, who's a dangerous left-arm bowler, left-arm quickie. Craig Young, who's basically got Jason Roy's number. I think he got him out 3 times in the ODI series that was over there a year or two ago. So there is a lot of talent here. It's just trying to get the volume of games to make sure that these guys are competing on that international level as often as they can, and continuing to improve.
And look, I've picked your brains for quite a while. I should really let you go soon, but why don't we just circle back to the Black Caps to finish? Someone I've been thinking about kind of how they fit in, and someone we mentioned before as someone you had a bit to do with it as a youngster is Finn Allen. I'm really trying to wonder where he kind of fits into this New Zealand side. I think at T20 we can certainly see how he might just immediately jump in and kind of open in those T20s next to Guptill. And obviously Daryl Mitchell did a fairly decent job there in the last T20 World Cup. Seems to do pretty well kind of wherever Daryl Mitchell slots in at the moment. But do you think that Finn, from your point of view, is someone that can work in the ODIs and I suppose in the T20s, in this upcoming World Cup, kind of next to Guptill, or is he really someone we should look at as kind of the Guptill successor when Martin Guptill kind of finally does move on, and I mean, certainly looks in good form at the moment, so maybe no signs of that happening anytime soon. But yeah, how are you viewing Finn and his kind of development over the past couple of years?
Yeah, look, it's been amazing how, the opportunities he's been given over the last couple of years on the back of, some good white ball domestic seasons with Wellington. And yeah, it's been good to see him get some opportunities for New Zealand. Obviously, it's a tough side to get into. But based on what I can see selection-wise, he does seem to be a bit of a horses for courses selection at this point in time. I think certain conditions they might look to use him. I think in Asia in particular, where you've probably got to make the most of those first 6 overs. I think he's probably the most dangerous he can possibly be. Obviously, he hits very long straight, and in that regard, he's probably similar to Guppy in some senses. But in other senses, he's an out-and-out striker. Guppy tries to mix, I guess, a combination of good stroke play with his striking ability, and that's probably why he's got 18 international ODI one-day international hundreds, because it's about trying to find that that right balance. Finn's maybe not quite there at this stage, and I haven't been close enough to him to understand whether that's an area of his game he wants to work on. But certainly in terms of that raw ball striking ability, there are a few in New Zealand who can obviously match him. So yeah, I think probably at this stage, conditions based selection, great for him to get some opportunities on this particular tour. Obviously after they leave Ireland, they're in Scotland and the Netherlands as well. So differing conditions that he'll come up against there. So good experience for him to build and to keep hopefully trying to improve, so that when it comes to playing those better teams, the likes of Australia, South Africa, he becomes a genuine option for us to look at. He loves pace on the ball. He loves facing quicks. He's very good off the back foot. So hopefully longer term, he's going to be 50 over option. But I think our selections do seem to be very conditions based. We've got a number of options at the top there, as you've already alluded to. Hopefully Guppy's got another 2-3 years left in him, because I guess the experience that he's built up is hard to replace immediately. But there are some guys there. Obviously Latham's in the middle order now. He can do a pretty good job up top as well, potentially for us if we need to. They've also looked at a range of different options. Obviously Henry Nicholls batted there the last World Cup, and there's obviously a few other guys coming through. So who knows what they go with? But based on what we've seen recently, they seem to go for that horses for courses approach. Obviously Mitchell Open in the World T20, he can do a great job there too. So yeah, look, it's exciting times in that regard to who they go for, and I guess it's just up to guys to take their opportunities when they come, like potentially Braces has this series. And
look, last question before I do let you go. I guess is there anyone, we're recording this on Monday night here in New Zealand time, so overnight we'll the T20 first T20 will start. Is there anyone that you're kind of looking for from a Black Caps perspective that's, I guess, is on the fringes of that side, T20 or ODI, I suppose, in the coming series that you're thinking can, or you would like perhaps to see really push their claim and force their way into the reckoning for these World Cups? Because you often do see that these World Cups, they come down to they are a real squad game. You only get to take 15 over there, and especially in particularly the ODI World Cup, when we go in terms of the conditions that we're going to face are going to be quite different in the subcontinent. So, yeah, is there anyone that you're kind of looking out for and hoping to, I guess, see good things for in the coming month or so of white ball cricket?
Yeah, that's a good question. You put me on the spot there a bit, Lips. Funny, the name you mentioned, Rippon, actually, I'd like to see more of him, from a Black Caps perspective. He's looked really good for the Bolts, obviously, for a while now. He looked pretty decent in that ODI series the Netherlands had in New Zealand back in April. I think he's in at least one, if not two, of the squads for the upcoming, tours to Scotland and the Netherlands. So, yeah, look, I'd like to see him, and whether, he's a genuine option for us to take. You're probably right in that regard. You're probably struggling to have, all of, Sodhi, Santner, Bracewell and Rippon in that squad. it's just, wrist spin is obviously a different proposition than finger spin. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the likes of he goes. Bracewell's always an option, but I do think, his batting is clearly, incredibly dangerous. It's just tough as a finger spinner in white ball cricket to be effective on, on anything other than, turning wickets, right? So, you've got to have an incredible ability to cop a hammering and come back ball after ball and game after game. So that's a real test of your mettle for sure. So, and I think Braces has got that, but it's whether, it's whether we've got that ability in various conditions to play that finger spin. It's bloody tough, and that's where I think Rippon could be an option for us. So yeah, I guess the ball is in their court for whoever stands up and takes the opportunity. Good to see Santner getting another crack. He's played very little cricket for New Zealand for a while now. So on his day, he's dangerous with the bat, and obviously bowls some good tough overs to hit across with the ball. So and he's obviously leading New Zealand this series. So it'd be interesting to see how he takes on that responsibility. And yeah, three games. Hopefully we get all three in. Today's going to be really good. It's going to be 28, 29 degrees. And yeah, it's a good ground. It's my home ground. The wicket's never generally totally batter friendly. It can be a little bit slow, so it'll be interesting to see what will be a good score, 170, 180 maybe. South Africa were here last year, got sort of around that 180, 190, and it could be tough to chase. But if Paul Sterling gets going, we should be in for an entertaining afternoon.
Beautiful. Well, we'll see how good your score predictions are. This episode will probably come out after the game, so people will see. Will already know your thoughts there. But look, Mark, it's always good to catch up. Really appreciate you jumping on the call from over there and filling us in a bit about the Irish setup. But yeah, like you say, just the challenges, I guess, of getting, New Zealand even talks about the financial challenges of playing various forms of cricket, and particularly Test cricket. And but as you say, it's a completely different ball game. And I'll certainly be that soft spot for Ireland will continue for me. So I'll be hoping for good things, and hoping to see your name continue on in the coaching ranks there. But yeah, thanks again for your time, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Absolute pleasure, Lips. Thanks very much for having me on, and keep up the good work. I really enjoy the episodes you boys put together. So good on you. Keep it coming.